Hey guys, welcome back to Michelle's STEM Journey. I'm Michelle and I'm here today with another AMC Problem of the Week video. This week's video comes from the year 2009 10A Problem 16 and it deals with algebra. I hope you all enjoyed this video and let's get started. Problem states, let a, b, c, and d be real numbers with the absolute value of a minus b equals to 2, the absolute value of b minus c equals to 3, and the absolute value of c minus d equals 4. What is the sum of all possible values of the absolute value of a minus d? Okay, to start this problem off, we see that we are dealing with absolute values. And so what absolute values are, basically, the result was always going to be a positive number. So for example, if we have the absolute value of -3, and if you didn't know, these two vertical lines right here, that is what indicates absolute value. And so if we have the absolute value of -3, that will give us 3. But then if we have the absolute value of +3, that will also give us 3. So we see here that it doesn't matter if the number inside the absolute value is positive or negative, the answer is always going to be a positive number. And so I'm just going to give a letter as an example. So for example, if we have letter A, we don't know if that's positive or negative, but then we put it in the absolute value. So now it is absolute value A. We know that this is always going to be positive. It's always going to be a positive number. But then if we get rid of the absolute value, if you want to take it off, then that means that A itself, it could be positive A or negative A. So we see here that essentially what absolute value does is it takes the number and turns it into a positive number. And the number that it turns into, like the number that it is working with, it could be positive or negative, but the answer after putting it into an absolute value, it's always going to be positive. But basically, we see here, we're just going to start off with this. So the absolute value of a minus b, it tells us that that is 2. And so we can't really work with it containing the absolute value, so we want to get rid of it. So that means that we would like to know what this could simplify to getting rid of the absolute value. So as I said earlier, it doesn't matter if a minus b gives us a positive or negative number. Putting it in the absolute value is always going to give us a positive number. In this case, we have positive 2. But then if we get rid of the absolute value, that means that we are getting a minus b. This could give us positive or negative 2. And so that means that a is equal to b plus or minus 2, or b plus positive or negative 2. And so why we want to take out a, it's because the question is asking us what is the sum of all possible values of the absolute value of a minus d. So we need to know how to express a, and then we also need to know d. And so we can just do the same thing with the remaining of the expressions. Okay, and so we see that these are all 3 separate equations, but we want to get a and d together. And we see that d does not have an equation that represents itself, so we can substitute this because we see that a equals to b plus positive or negative 2. And then we also know what b is. B is equal to c plus positive or negative 3. And then we also know that c is equal to d plus positive or negative 4. So we can substitute this in. So starting off with a equals to b plus positive or negative 2, we can substitute b in, and that would give us c plus positive or negative 3, that is b. We're substituting it, and then plus positive or negative 2. Okay, and then we see that we know c is equal to d plus positive or negative 4. So a is equal to d plus positive or negative 4. So that is c, plus 3 plus positive or negative 2. And then this is absolutely perfect. We have an equation that only has a and d in it with the remaining just numbers, and so we can simplify this. Okay, and so now we can just move over the d to get a minus d, and we see that we are getting very close to what the question is asking us, because it says what are the possible values of the absolute value of a minus d. And so if we want to put the absolute value of a minus d on this side, then that means that we also have to put it on this side. So we would get a minus d, and we have the absolute value symbol, and then it would be that we have to put the absolute value on the other side as well. And so it is asking us what is the sum of all possible values of this. And so we have this right here. And so we just want to know what are the possible values of this right here. So for example, we could have positive 4 plus 3 plus 2. That would give us one possible value. And so we just want to go through all of those. And so right here, we can actually just list them all out, because there are not many possibilities. There's 8 possibilities, because it is 2 to the power of 3. And that is because we have 2 possible values for each number, and then we have 3 numbers. It would be like 2 possible values for 4 times 2 possible values for 3 times 2 possible values for 2. So that's how we got 8 possibilities for the value of this. But that does not really matter, because it's not asking us how many possible values there are. It's asking us what is the sum of all of the possible values. So that means that we actually have to solve it out. And so we can just list them all out. As I said, there's not a lot. There's only 8. So you just need to know which ones, like you need to go down and make sure that you're not doing the same combination twice or like many times. So for example, we can start off with the basic. 4 plus 3 plus 2. That's just the very basic one, and that gives us 9. So that's one possibility. And then we have 4 plus 3 minus 2, and that gives us 5. Okay, so if you see the pattern that I'm doing here, basically what I'm doing to make sure that I'm not overlapping anything is that we start off with a positive 4, and then we change the 3 and 2. So for example, we have 4, positive 4, and then plus 3 plus 2. And then we have 4 plus 3 minus 2. And then we did the minus 2, so we can make the 2 positive again and then do the minus 3. So it would give us this one, which is 4 minus 3 plus 2. And then we have that done, we can do 4 minus 3 minus 2, and that would give us negative 1. And we already see that out of the 4, we already have one that could not be a possible value, but we're just going to list all of the 8 out first, and then we'll go over which ones are not possible. Now that I have the 4 possible for different values for positive 4, we can go in with negative 4. So we can do the same thing, -4 plus 3 plus 2. That would give us 1. So we have all of the different 8 values that we got. And now we can just go over and see which ones are possible. Because looking back at the question, it says, what is the sum of all possible values of the absolute value? And as I said earlier, at the beginning of this video, I explained that the absolute value, it only results to a positive number. So that means that these are all of the different values that we got for the absolute value of a minus d, but not all of them are possible, not all of them are okay, because we see that if the result can only be positive, then that means that number 4 we see, this is not okay, because we see that that gives us -1. And so that is a negative number, and we can only get positive numbers here because of the absolute value. So that means that 4 is out. And then we can just go in and see which numbers are negative, and we can cross those out. So 6 is not it, 7 is not it, 8 is not it. Those are all negative numbers. And so the remaining we see are 4 distinct positive numbers. And so that is all. And now all we have to do is just add them up. So we have 9 plus 5 plus 3 plus 1. And that gives us 18. And then looking back at the answer choices, we do have the answer of D. So the answer is D, 18.